Hey guys, welcome back. In this episode, we're going to be diving through the manual of the Fantom. Nah, we're not doing that. I'm actually going to show you guys how to get started on the Fantom. Top left hand side of the panel, because it's complicated. Okay, so in this video, I want to kind of go over the left hand side of the board. And I want to break this series up for you guys to make it a little bit easier to kind of digest what's happening on the board. And then I'm going to give you guys more detailed videos as we go along. Okay. The first thing that we're going to need to understand about this board before we go too much further is the way that it's broken down. And it's a little confusing at first if you're not used to gear like this, like I was. But when you first turn on the Fantom, you're greeted here in what are called scenes. They're essentially groupings of different functions on the board, including sounds. Okay. So for example, in Fantom, they named these channels as zones, and they named the individual voicings as tones. So if you hear me kind of go back and forth, I usually refer to these as channels, but I'll try the best that I can to keep to their terminology so we don't get confused. But if you hear me jumble up, that's all that I'm referring to. Now, a single tone, or if we exit out and we're back into our scene view, right now this homecoming scene is layered with 1, 2, 3 zones, okay, or 3 channels. And you can go up to 19 different channels or zones here. But if you want to view what's going on, you're going to click Zone View, and you can split this up a couple of different ways. The first one's going to be Zone 1. Click it again, it's going to show you 4 different zones or tones, okay? So channel 1 is going to be our first tone. And then if we add the second one, you're going to hear the second tone. Well, let's turn it down. Turn our zone 1 down. Right? And then our third zone is our third tone. Okay? So just kind of a warm up of what we're doing. All right? And we're going to focus on the left-hand side, but I think at least have to get that part established. On the left-hand side, obviously, you're going to have 2 different mod wheels. You're going to have your first wheel, and you can do pitches on it. Second one's going to be more of a looser wheel. This one has kickback to it. This one, you can kind of move around, just like your standard MIDI controller. Okay, and they also have a 2-in-1 combo down here that both does the pitching or the modulation. All right. On the top left-hand side, you're going to have your master volume, and obviously that's going to adjust our volume right there. Okay, and I have this wired out to the MIDI controller through 2 balanced cables, left and right. And if you look up here, you're going to have pan level. And when that's triggered, it's going to make these knobs give you access to the pan and the levels. So first one, see how it says zone 1? If we turn off these other zones, and let's show it here. It's panning left and right that zone. Okay, this is going to be your second zone. Let's turn it on. And you have to click here. Okay. That's going to, so when you're in pan level, that's going to give you access to the pan in zone 1, the level in zone 1, or channel 1. Okay. And as you go down the line, it'll continue to go. Okay. So the next thing is if we click onto control, that's going to kick us off of our pan level, and that's going to give us access. If you follow the line, it's going to tell you what it has control over. Okay, so it's going to have attack, release, reverb, chorus, low gain, mid gain, high gain, EQ on. So let's go back to our first sound, or our first tone. Now if I pan this, notice how it says zone 1. So this is affecting our attack on our first zone, but not on our second zone. So if I want to loosen it, if I want to tighten up the attack, let's turn that off. Okay. Your release, tighten it up, short release, reverb, no reverb, and let's go over to chorus, no chorus. And in order to enable, you have to enable the EQ first. So now it's on, then it's off. Same thing, this is for zone 1, channel 1, sound 1, okay? So now that the EQ's on, we can adjust low end, right? Now, if we have these settings like this, and we want to toggle it off, it turns it off now, okay? So let's go ahead and switch back over. And now if you want to control the second zone, let's switch it here. And notice how it doesn't change? Because if you want to change your zones in the control on here, you also need to turn on zone select. And notice how zone select's still on 1. But when it's toggled off, it's on 2. So if you click zone select, now click 2, now you're controlling zone 2's attack and release and so forth. And if you want to move through the zones, now you're controlling zone 3, zone 4, and you kind of get the idea now, okay? This middle button right here, let's turn zone 1 off, or let's go back to zone 1, because this is just kind of hiding in the background. But now, what does this assign button do? Well, this sign button, if you haven't used it before, it's not doing anything. And it's not doing anything because it hasn't been assigned to anything. If you want, you can assign it different parameters and or MIDI control channels onto the keyboard. So the quickest way to do it is hit Shift, and you have to be in assign to do this. Now wiggle it. It's going to say assign. It's going to say knob assigned 1, and you can scroll down. It's going to give your min, your max, and if you scroll through, modulation, breath, porta time, data entry, volume. Let's just say we want it to affect volume. Let's go ahead and exit out. Now it's affecting volume. You can assign it to whatever you want, but to kind of go back, we're going to have to go back to scenes to kind of explain this a little bit better. Let's exit out, and I created a demo scene to kind of explain what it's doing. Now, mind you, this is in a VST mode now. See how it's green, and I'll explain that in a minute. If you hit Shift in the channel, that switches between internal control, and when it's green, it's external control. But for the sake of this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to complete control, because not only can you assign it internal parameters, you can assign it MIDI channels, okay? So now that I'm on assign, I'm controlling, well, I don't like that. That's better. Oh, I know what it's doing. Stop splitting. Okay. Okay, so if you see here, it says EXT, and that means it can control external MIDI. And for this example, I'm just controlling Ableton. Okay, now if I play, if you look, you see balance is being moved, the cutoff's being moved, and what I did is I hit Shift, wiggled the knob, and I assigned it CC 21, control channel 21. Okay, and if you look, 22, 23, I assigned each knob their own little range. Okay, and then I went into complete control and I assigned it those numbers. So 21 there, as you remember, is 21 here, and that's why I can control complete control. See, it's saying CC 21. The other thing that you can do is you can assign the mod wheels, you can assign the pitch wheel, different parameters. And again, you just hit Shift and wiggle it, and now it's going to give you options. Okay, if you hit Shift, wiggle, it's going to ask you what you want to assign it to. And I also Shift and I assigned these two little knobs here, MIDI channels as well. So I can just press this button and I can toggle it through complete control. Okay, so that is just an example, and I'm going to do a whole video at how to set this up as a MIDI controller, but that's just kind of explain what the assign does. Now, it's also in depth too, because this initial scene here has the parameters. I saved it into this scene. If I click over here and I'm on assign, and let's turn these off, and I hit Shift 1, I can play. But I'm not adjusting that at all. And actually it's still playing sounds from the controller. So, and that's because switch that over. It still had a zone turned on. But notice it's not moving the knobs anymore. Because once you create a change into your scene, you have to save and write the scene. Click write, press scene, and then you save it that way. And we'll go into those features later on, but that just to kind of explain what these knobs are doing, and that it's not that I didn't save it as a universal. I just saved it as a scene, so I can always toggle back to that and use it as a MIDI controller just for that scene. And again, or you can assign these channels however you like, and however you like to play, however you like to control it. Okay. Let's start back up at the top. We're on zone select. So if we go zone view and you enter in, now it's going to show you 8 scenes. Now it's going to show you 16 scenes. But on here, you just have the 1 through 8. But if you click zone 9 through 16, now this is going to enable those zones. So let's go back over, zone select. Let's press that button. Now it says 9, zone 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So this is just a faster way to get to your 16 zones or channels onto the keyboard. If you toggle it off, now you're 1 through 8. And if you toggle it back on, now you're 9 through 16. So let's click that. Zone select channel 1, zone 1, and let's take a look down here. If I switch zone view, it'll have a better understanding. The split button is still kind of strange because it breaks apart the first channel and the fourth channel. And I'm going to go ahead and click it. It's going to say set split. Are you sure you want to? And if you press this button or on the screen, okay, it splits the first channel and the fourth channel, and it left the first 2 zones unsplit. See, and now it's triggering. Here, let's change the tone. So you can see now, it's just a way of splitting it quickly. Click it off. It's just gonna play it because I'm on 4. Now back on 1. But now it's playing both. And it's because both channels are turned on. So, and that's just a quick way to split it. We'll go into how to manually split it later on. Next one is going to be your chord memory. And when you toggle this, it's going to bring you into a single key chord form. This is where I wish this keyboard really had lit up keys on here, like the Complete Control or like the SL, because then if I could click it and see what notes it was playing, I wouldn't have to be so dependent in my DAW to click in and see. But for the sake of it, let's exit here. Okay, so made a little bit of changes because I forgot how it was set up a different way. But this way you can see what it's doing. So now you can see it's playing those notes not only internally, but the way I have it routed, because it's green, is it's sending the MIDI information into Ableton, and then I'm routing it back in so you can actually hear the single tone piano that's playing, okay? And we'll go into further details later, but you can switch the styles, the keys, but if you press fast, it plays faster. If you press the velocity softer, it's going to play it slower, okay? And our next one over is going to be our arpeggiator. And now you see it's playing notes. And the arpeggiator in here is actually pretty good. Hold. The variations. It's going to be our speed. And let's go turn hold off. Okay. So just quick little rundown, and maybe I'll dive into these on separate videos. But the next one over is going to be our transpose. And if you press transpose, it's not going to do anything. It's going to turn it on. It's going to show you transpose is 0. But if you press and hold it and then press up, now it's going up. Okay, see how it's lit up? Because it knows it's currently transposed. And we can go down. And see how it stays lit? That's just showing you, hey, this keyboard's being transposed. Toggle it, and let's go back to 0. It's no longer transposed. Next one over is obviously easy. It's your octave. Almost every MIDI controller has this. Okay. I hope that kind of explains the left hand as much as possible. I'm going to try to break down this keyboard as best as I can for you guys. Thanks for watching. I'm trying to break down this series so you're going to have a nice little playlist on a bunch of different sections on the Fantom 06 to kind of get you guys going. But if you like this content, make sure to like, subscribe, turn on that notification bell so you can stay up to date with all the latest episodes. And while you're at it, check out those videos. We'll see you on the next one.